I never thought a puddle of rainwater could hold the reflection of everything I'd been running from, but that night, under the stuttering glow of a broken streetlight, it did. And the man I'd walked past for 347 days straight became the mirror I'd been too afraid to look into. Every morning at 7:15, I passed him. Same corner, same cardboard sign with words I never let myself read. Same wool blanket despite the season. I told myself stories to make it easier. He's probably on substances. He chose this. There are shelters. I'm late for work. I have my own problems. We all have our mantras, don't we? The little lies that let us sleep at night while someone else shivers through it. My name is Sarah Mitchell, and if you'd asked me 6 months ago who I was, I would have recited my resume. Marketing director, MBA from a decent school, apartment in a decent neighborhood. Decent, decent, decent. That word was the architecture of my entire existence. Nothing spectacular, nothing shameful. Just a woman moving through her 30s like she was checking boxes on someone else's list. My therapist said I was functioning through grief. I called it Tuesday. My brother died 14 months before that rainy night. Daniel. He was the one who actually lived, you know. While I was optimizing email campaigns and attending networking happy hours I didn't enjoy, he was teaching music to kids in underserved schools for a salary that barely covered rent. He died in a stupid, random, senseless car accident. Pickup truck ran a red light. Daniel's Civic didn't stand a chance. The last conversation we had was an argument. He wanted to borrow money again. I said no, suggested he get a real job, told him I couldn't keep enabling his financial irresponsibility. He said okay, quiet, sad. 3 days later, he was gone. And I've been carrying that conversation around like a stone in my chest ever since. The homeless man appeared about 2 weeks after the funeral. At least, that's when I first noticed him. Corner of Ashland and Monroe, right outside the coffee shop where I grabbed my morning latte. He wasn't like the others. I know that sounds terrible, like I'm categorizing human beings, but there was something different. His clothes were worn but clean. His beard was long but trimmed. His eyes, when they accidentally met mine that first morning, were clear and impossibly sad. He had a sign, yes, but he never thrust it at people, never called out. He just sat there against the brick wall of the closed pharmacy, present but not intrusive, like he was trying to take up as little space as possible in a world that had already decided he didn't deserve any. I started timing my walks to avoid eye contact. Left the apartment at 7:12 instead of 7:10. Crossed the street if I saw someone stopping to talk to him. Put my earbuds in, even without music playing, to create that universal signal of unavailability. It wasn't cruelty, I told myself. It was self-preservation. I was barely holding myself together. I couldn't take on someone else's tragedy when I was drowning in my own. But here's the thing about avoidance. It requires acknowledgement. You can't actively ignore something you haven't noticed. So every morning, in the split second before I looked away, I saw him. And I started noticing things despite myself. The way he organized his few possessions with military precision. The small leather journal he sometimes wrote in with intense concentration. How he always had a small bowl of water for the stray dogs that wandered the block. The morning he shared his breakfast sandwich with a woman who looked even worse off than he did. The afternoon I saw him helping an elderly lady pick up groceries she'd dropped, then refusing her offer of money. Who are you? The question started living in the back of my mind, unwanted and persistent. What happened to put you here? My own life was unraveling in slow motion. Work was suffocating. My boss, Kevin, was a walking HR violation waiting to happen, and the new product launch I'd spent 8 months developing was being credited to someone else. My mother called every Sunday to ask if I was dating anyone, as if a relationship was the antidote to grief. My apartment felt like a museum of the person I used to pretend to be. I'd wake up at 3 in the morning, Daniel's voice in my head. You're so focused on success, you forgot about significance, Sarah. That was another thing he'd said during our last fight. Another knife I couldn't pull out. 3 weeks before the rainy night, something shifted. I was having the worst day. Kevin had publicly berated me in a meeting. I'd spilled coffee on my white blouse. My credit card was declined at lunch because I'd forgotten to pay the bill. I was walking home, crying behind my sunglasses, trying to keep my face neutral because God forbid someone see you falling apart in public. And I passed him, the homeless man. He looked up, really looked at me and said quietly, "I hope tomorrow's kinder to you." I stopped, turned, stared. He wasn't asking for anything, wasn't expecting a response, had already returned his attention to his journal, and I walked away, feeling like I'd just been seen by the only person in the city who was actually looking. It disturbed me for days. The gentleness in his voice, the lack of judgment, the way he'd offered comfort without requiring anything in return. It didn't fit my narrative. Homeless people were supposed to be the ones needing help, not giving it, weren't they? I started paying more attention, not talking to him, but watching. He had routines. Every morning he folded his blanket into a precise square. Every evening he read, real books, hard covers, not just discarded newspapers. Once I saw the spine, the complete works of Shakespeare. He read like it mattered, like he was studying, not just passing time. There was a grace to his movements, a deliberateness that suggested a life before this one. A life with structure, purpose, maybe even elegance. Then I noticed his hands. Clean nails, not perfectly manicured, but maintained. Hands that suggested discipline, care. I started wondering what those hands used to do. Play piano, perform surgery, build things, write things. I caught myself creating elaborate backstories. Maybe he was a professor who had a breakdown, a businessman who lost everything in a divorce, a veteran with PTSD. Maybe. Each story was a way to make him less random, less frightening, because if his situation had a specific cause, maybe it couldn't happen to me. Maybe. The rainy night started like any other November evening in Chicago. I left work late, around 8. The sky had been threatening all day, that heavy grey that promises trouble. I should have taken an Uber, but I was trying to save money, trying to feel less untethered by sticking to routines. Walking, breathing, existing. The rain started as drizzle, then escalated to a downpour within minutes. I had an umbrella, but the wind made it useless. Water soaked through my coat, my shoes, ran down my neck in cold rivulets. The streets emptied fast. Chicago people know when to surrender to weather. I was 3 blocks from home, passing the corner, when I saw him. Still there, soaked through. His cardboard sign had dissolved into pulp. His blanket was a sodden, useless heap. But he was standing, facing the opposite direction, completely focused on something I couldn't see. There was an intensity to his posture that stopped me. And then I heard it. A child crying. Not the tantrum kind of crying, the scared kind. I moved closer, water streaming into my eyes. In the mouth of an alley, barely visible in the darkness, was a little girl, maybe 5 or 6 years old. She was wearing a thin jacket, no hood, crying hysterically, and standing between her and the street was the homeless man, speaking in low, calm tones. "It's okay, sweetheart. We're going to find your mom. I need you to stay right here with me where it's safe. Can you do that?" The child was terrified but nodding. That's when I realized what was happening. She was lost. Separated from her parents somehow, wandering alone in a storm, and this man everyone ignored, everyone avoided, had become her protector. He wasn't touching her, wasn't crowding her, was giving her space to feel safe while keeping her out of danger. And his voice, God, his voice. It had the tone of someone who'd done this before. Someone trained in crisis, in comfort, in command without intimidation. I stepped forward. "Can I help?" He looked at me. Really looked. Recognition flickered. The woman who walked past every morning with increasing determination not to see him. He didn't acknowledge it, just said, "She's lost. Separated from her mother maybe 10 minutes ago. I've been trying to keep her calm and visible. Do you have a phone that works?" Mine was at 18%. But yes. I dialed 911. Gave the location. The dispatcher said officers were 6 minutes away. The rain pounded harder. I crouched down, tried to talk to the little girl, but she shrank back. She trusted him, though. The homeless man. She kept her eyes on him like he was the only solid thing in a dissolving world. "How do you know she's lost and not running from something?" I asked quietly. "Look at her shoes. Good quality, recently tied. Clean face under the tears. She's cared for, loved. This is fear of separation, not fear of return. And she told me her mama's name is Jennifer, and they were at the bookstore and she let go of her hand to look at a toy. Classic scenario. Mama's probably 2 blocks away, frantic, searching in the opposite direction." He was right. The detail in his assessment, the confidence, the competence. This wasn't luck or instinct, this was training. "You work with kids?" A ghost of a smile. "Worked with everyone." He didn't elaborate, kept his focus on the child. "You're doing so good, honey. Your mama's coming. These nice police officers are going to help us find her. You were so smart to stay in one place." The police arrived with a frantic woman right behind them. Jennifer, the mother. She sobbed when she saw her daughter, scooped her up, covered her in kisses. The little girl was crying and laughing, saying, "The nice man kept me safe. The nice man told me stories." Jennifer turned to thank him, tried to press money into his hands. He refused, gently but firmly. "She's safe. That's what matters. Get her home and warm." The police took a brief statement. One of the officers clearly recognized the homeless man, nodded with something that looked like respect, maybe even regret. Then they were gone. The street was empty again, except for the 2 of us, standing in the rain. I was shivering. He seemed not to notice the cold at all. "That was incredible," I said. "What you did. It's what anyone should do. But not everyone would. Most people would have walked past, not gotten involved. Like I did, every day, for almost a year." He looked at me with those sad, clear eyes. "You walked past her too, but you came back, that's what counts." Shame burned in my chest. "I walk past you every day." "I know. Why do you stay on that corner?" He was quiet for a long moment. Rain dripped from his beard, his hair pooled around his boots. "I stay where I can be useful. People pass that corner. Students, workers, families. When someone needs help with directions, or a kind word, or someone to hold their coffee while they tie a shoe, I'm there. It's a small thing, but small things accumulate into a life." "But you're—" I couldn't finish the sentence without sounding like every privileged person who'd never had to question their safety net. "Homeless," he finished. "The word doesn't scare me. It's a circumstance, not an identity." He tilted his head. "You look at me every morning and see a failure. Someone who made wrong choices. Someone to be pitied or feared or ignored. You're not unique in that. I became invisible the day I ended up on the street. It's the strangest thing, becoming invisible. You're right there, taking up space, breathing the same air. But people look through you, past you, never at you." The truth of it cracked something in me. "I'm sorry." "Don't be sorry. Understand." He paused. 3 years ago, I was an emergency room physician, Northwestern Memorial, trauma unit. I worked 80-hour weeks, saved lives, lost lives, believed I was invincible because I saw death every day and never thought it would touch me personally. My breath caught. A doctor. Of course. The clean hands, the calm competence, the way he assessed the child. My daughter got sick. His voice was steady, but his eyes were somewhere else. Leukemia. Aggressive, She was 9. We did everything. Trials, treatments, specialists. I used every connection, every resource. She fought for 16 months, and I held her hand when she died, knowing all my training, all my knowledge, all my desperate bargaining with the universe meant nothing. Tears were mixing with rain on my face. "I'm so sorry." I broke. Simple words. Devastating truth. Completely. I couldn't go back to the ER. Couldn't see other children, other families, other chances I couldn't save. I fell apart, lost my job, then my license. My wife left. Not because she stopped loving me, but because we couldn't grieve in the same space without destroying each other. I had savings, but grief is expensive. Therapy I couldn't commit to, medications I wouldn't take. I drifted, and eventually I ended up here. Why not go to a shelter, get help? You're clearly capable. Of what? Going back? He smiled sadly. I tried. Twice. Got sober, got a room, got interviews. But the person they wanted me to be was the person before my daughter died. And I can't be him. He doesn't exist anymore. So I found a different way to exist. I'm not hurting anyone. I'm not using substances. I'm just surviving in the margins, trying to do small goods when I can, and remembering my daughter by staying present in the world she left behind. It was the most honest thing I'd ever heard. No redemption arc. No promise of climbing back, just a man who'd been shattered and was living with the pieces in a way that made sense to him, even if it made no sense to anyone else. What was her name? I asked. Emma. The rain was slowing. Somewhere in the distance, sirens wailed. The city continued, indifferent to both our griefs. I thought about Daniel, about all the ways I'd been surviving instead of living, about how I'd turned my brother's death into a reason to close down instead of open up. My brother died 14 months ago, I heard myself say. We fought before it happened. I said terrible things, and I've been punishing myself ever since by refusing to connect with anyone, including myself. I walk past you every day because looking at you means admitting that pain is real and random and can put any of us anywhere, and that terrifies me. He nodded, understanding without judgment. Guilt is a terrible companion. It'll walk with you forever if you let it. It'll convince you that staying broken is the only way to honor what you've lost. How do you live with it? By acknowledging that I can't save everyone, but I can see everyone. The little girl tonight, she needed someone to see her. Keep her safe until help arrived. That's all any of us need, really, to be seen, to matter in our moment. He looked at me directly. You matter, Sarah, even in your pain, especially in your pain. I hadn't told him my name, but of course he knew it. He'd probably seen it on my coffee cup hundreds of times, had probably listened to my phone conversations as I walked past, had seen me in all my carefully constructed invisibility while being invisible himself. What's your name? I asked. Marcus. Dr. Marcus Webb, though I don't use the title anymore. Marcus, I repeated, testing the weight of making him real, giving him a name, acknowledging his humanity. Thank you for tonight, for every morning you sit on that corner, even though people like me pretend you don't exist. You saw me today. That's a start. We stood there in the aftermath of the rain, two broken people on a corner that would mean everything and nothing tomorrow morning. I wanted to fix him, to offer money, connections, solutions, but I was beginning to understand that fixing was another form of not seeing. He didn't need me to save him. He needed me to acknowledge that his way of surviving was valid, even if it wasn't mine. Can I bring you coffee tomorrow? I asked. Actually bring it, not just walk past. I'd like that. And maybe we could talk. I'm clearly terrible at living my life, and you seem to have figured out something true that the rest of us keep missing. He laughed, actual laughter. It transformed his face. I figured out how to survive. That's not the same as living. But yes, let's talk. Let's be two people who know what it's like to lose everything and try to figure out what comes after. I walked home that night feeling lighter and heavier simultaneously. Lighter because I'd finally stopped running from connection. Heavier because I understood that seeing people, really seeing them, meant carrying some of their weight. But maybe that was the point. Maybe we're supposed to carry each other. Maybe that's how we survive the unsurvivable. The next morning, I bought 2 coffees. Large, black for him with a splash of cream for me. I crossed the street deliberately, walked directly to his corner. He looked up, smiled that sad, knowing smile. "Good morning, Sarah." "Good morning, Marcus." I sat down, on the sidewalk, in my work clothes, staining my expensive pants on the dirty concrete, and we talked about Emma, about Daniel, about the 1,000 small ways we betray ourselves by pretending we're fine, about grief and guilt, and the difference between existing and living. We talked for 20 minutes, and I was late for work and I didn't care. It became a routine every morning, 2 coffees, 20 minutes. Some days we talked, some days we sat in silence. He never asked me for anything except my attention, which turned out to be the most valuable thing I had to give. I started changing, small shifts. I looked people in the eye. The barista who made my coffee, I learned her name, Maria. The security guard at my building, I asked about his kids. I stopped hiding behind efficiency and productivity and started participating in my own life. I called my mum, had real conversations instead of performative check-ins. I stood up to Kevin at work, documented his harassment, filed a formal complaint. I looked for a new job, one that felt significant instead of just successful. And Marcus. I brought him gloves as winter deepened, not as charity but as friendship. He accepted them. I offered to connect him with services, and he declined politely but firmly. I learned to respect that. His life wasn't a problem for me to solve. It was simply his life, as valid and complex as my own, lived on different terms. 3 months after the rainy night, I got a new job. Better company, better values, better fit. I brought Marcus celebratory donuts. We sat on his corner, eating jelly-filled pastries, watching the city wake up. "You're different," he observed. "Lighter, more present. You help me understand something. That avoiding pain doesn't make it go away. It just makes you smaller. You lost Emma and it broke you. I lost Daniel and tried to freeze in place so nothing could hurt me again. But you kept living, kept showing up, kept offering kindness even when the world stopped offering it back to you. That's not broken. That's brave. Or stubborn. Maybe both." I wiped sugar from my mouth. "I'm starting a fund, in Daniel's name, to provide music education supplies for underprivileged schools. It's what he would have wanted. It's what I should have supported when he was alive. I can't bring him back, but I can honor what mattered to him, make his significance visible." Marcus's eyes shone. He'd be proud. I think he'd be relieved I finally pulled my head out of my corporate ass. We laughed, real laughter, the kind that acknowledges pain but doesn't bow to it. The kind that says, we're still here, still capable of joy, still worthy of connection despite everything we've lost. I think about that rainy night often, about how close I came to walking past the little girl the way I'd walked past Marcus for almost a year, about how one moment of choosing to see instead of avoid changed the entire trajectory of my life. Marcus didn't save me. I want to be clear about that. He didn't fix me or rescue me or offer me some profound wisdom that solved all my problems. What he did was refuse to let me hide. He held up a mirror, showed me what I'd become in my grief, and trusted that I was brave enough to choose differently. Some mornings now, other people stop. They bring Marcus coffee, sandwiches, conversation. He's becoming visible, one interaction at a time. He still sleeps on that corner, still refuses shelter, still lives on his own terms. But he's not alone in his visibility anymore, and neither am I. I learned that significance isn't about grand gestures or perfect choices. It's about showing up, seeing people, allowing yourself to be seen, choosing connection over comfort, even when it's scary, even when it requires acknowledging that we're all just one catastrophe away from needing the compassion we're so quick to withhold. If this story moved you, if it made you think about the people you walk past without seeing, consider subscribing to hear more stories about the unexpected ways we save each other. Because that's what we're doing here, in all our messy, broken, beautiful attempts at living. We're saving each other. One moment of attention at a time, one choice to see instead of look away, one conversation that acknowledges we're all fighting battles no one else can see. Hit that subscribe button if you want to keep exploring what it means to be human in a world that often encourages us to be anything but. Thanks for listening. And tomorrow, when you walk past someone the world has decided doesn't matter, I hope you'll remember Marcus. I hope you'll remember Emma. I hope you'll stop, see them, and maybe, just maybe, let them see you too.